Alright y'all, so to start out this cut, I have a number 3 on my wall seniors, and once I get to the back, I'm going to realize that I want this cut to be a little bit lower. So what I do is I put a number 2 guard on and I open it. So a number 2 guard open is going to be the highest point of this fade. Alright, so here's the number 2 guard, and notice as I get into the bulk that I flick out. This is going to be very important that you flick out when you get into the bulk so that you don't cut too far into the hair, because you can destroy the haircut by doing so. Notice how I continue to just go over each spot. Even though I've already hit it, I continue to go over it multiple times just so I can assure that each hair is the same length and everything's laying how it's supposed to. Notice how there's a heavy line into the bulk. That line's okay, because what you're going to do is you're going to do the fade, do the lineup, and then work on the top with your shears and blend that in. That's going to be one of the last things you do, is blend that top in with the sides. But also notice how it's straight, and it's all the way around the head, and you're going to see the other side. It's straight on that side too, because what you do to one side you have to do to the other. The only difference with this cut from one side to the other is, on this side he gets like kind of the bookshelf look, and then we line the front on this side, and then we part his hair toward the middle, and we brush his hair to the left. He didn't usually get the part, but we put it in one time and he was loving it. It added extra detail to the cut. So now I'm setting in my ball line with my Babyliss Skeletons, and he gets a mid to low fade. So make sure that when you set this guideline in, you set it in nice and neat and symmetrical around the whole head, because this is a foundation of the cut. This is a foundation of the fade. So you don't want to build something on a weak foundation. You want your city to be built on a rock. So make sure that you set in a good foundation so that you give yourself the opportunity to give the best fade possible. Make these as clean and neat as possible. When I set these in, like you just saw, I start at the front of one side, I work my way towards the back, and I go a little bit farther past the back. Then I go to the front of the opposite side that I started on. I put the mark in at the same. Most of the times I look at the front of the head just to see how low or high I put the initial guideline in, so that it's easier for me, and then I trace that from there to the back, and I meet them in the back. Okay, so here I got my wall seniors, and I just have the blade open, and I'm setting this in about 1/2 inch. Notice how I flick out. You have to flick out at first before you can lay your blade flat. If you lay your blade flat and just go in, you're gonna push the fade higher than you want it, because there's longer hair, so you got to cut the longer hair out of the way first. So you flick out first, then you come in and lay your blade flat, so that you make sure every hair is the same length. So see how I work in sections? I'm going to work from the front to behind the ear. I'm going to go open, halfway, and close, and take out that line. Then I'm going to move on to the next section, from behind the ear to the back of the head. And it's the same pattern, open, halfway, close. Just like I did when I set in my ball line, I started from one side, I worked my way to the back, I went to the front of the other side, worked it around a little bit. Now I'm meeting the back on the side. And it's the same thing on each side. What you do to one side, you do to the other. So I'm not doing anything different from one side to the other. It's still open, halfway, closed. And I mean, I say open, halfway, closed, but what I mean by that is that's what I do at first, and then you're always going to have to come back and do detail work and find the dark spots of the cut and figure out what it's going to take those lines out. Eventually, once you cut hair so much, you're going to be able to just look at a hair and know what you need to do to take that out, whether it be a 1 open with the corner or a 0 with the corner or a 2, like whatever you look at and you can see. Okay, so now I got my 1 open and I'm setting the next guideline. This one might be a little bit higher, but if it is, it's not too much, but that doesn't even matter as long as we keep the 1 open the same height all the way around the head. It's still going to match up because we kept the open the same all the way around the head. These two don't. The open and the 1 open don't have to be the same as long as they're the same as each other, if that makes sense. Like, the 1 open has to be the same all the way around the head. But it's going to be the same process. Open, halfway closed, and you're going to notice that he has a light spot above his ear because his hair is less dense there. So I'm going to kind of skip around that a lot because it doesn't need the 1 closed to be brought up as high as around that spot does. Because as you notice, it's more dense around that spot, which is wide in that 1 spot. But it's really going to be the same process. We go open, halfway closed. And 9 cuts out of 10, the 1 guard open to halfway to closed, there's going to be a bottom line. There's going to be a line, and that's what the 0 guard's for. The 0 is going to come clean all that up. So don't stress too much if you can't really get that line out with the 1. That's what the 0 is for, and you definitely need a 0 guard. You need a 0 guard, you need a 1.5 guard. So it's a half guard or a 0 guard, whichever one you want to call it, but you need a 0/1.5, and you need a 0/half, and you need a 1.5 guard, especially if you use the wall. Guards. So it's the same thing. I go from one side to the other. I meet in the back, and then I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna pull that to the back, so I know that the fade is consistent, and I know that I kept the same guideline all the way through. Alright, so now I'm going to get to work with that 0 guard. And the 0 guard is really like the janitor of guards. It comes in and it cleans up what the 1 closed couldn't clean up. It really is more of a detail guard. Like this is a guard that it's a detail guard to me. Like, I don't set guidelines in with this guard. I just use it to come and clean up. So to me, a detail guard, you don't really set it flat too many times. Most of the time you use the corner on it. Like, if you notice how I'm tilting the clipper and I'm using the corner, and I'm finding a hair that I don't like, a dark spot, that's a spot that's more dense, and I'm plucking that spot out. I'm using my corner and I'm edging at the hair. And you can still go open, halfway closed on these just to be safe, but to me it's a detail guard, and the more you use it, the more you're gonna understand that. Alright, so now we're back to the beginning of the fade. Now we're fading down. We got the 2 guard, we have it open. Now we go halfway, now we go closed, and we're going about ½ inch to an inch above that dark line so that we can give ourselves room to put the 1.5 on to fade that line out. So now when we put the 1.5 guard on, we're going right up under, we can have it open, and we're going right up under where we just left off that 2 closed. And then it's the same process. You go open, halfway closed, and then what you can't take out with the 1.5 closed, you'll come back in with the 1 open, and you'll just use your corners and detail it out. And you might have to do some lever play with the 1. You might have to close it a little bit or close it halfway. You might have to close it. You might be able to get it out with the 1 open. You might have to close it halfway, and you might have to close it all the way. So make sure you're careful when you use your corner. So here I got the one guard back on, and like I said, I'm just gonna use my corners. I'm gonna do some detail work, and I'm just picking my spots. I'm looking where I see a dark spot, and I'm cornering that spot out. I'm attacking the hair. This is learning how to do detail work is what's really gonna set you apart from a lot of other barbers who just don't take their time. They don't take the time, or they just don't know how to go in and take these spots out and make the fade just flawless. So now I'm back to the back with my with my half guard or my zero guard, whichever one. I'm gonna call it the zero guard. And it's just open halfway closed. Then, like I said, and notice how I work back in my section. I work from the back of the ear to the back of the head. And barbers, that's me using my mirror. Use your mirror. The mirror's gonna tell you the truth. Your eyes are gonna lie to you sometimes. You might stare at the fade too long and not see something that the mirror, once you look in the mirror, it's gonna show you. So now I'm just back with my 1.5, and I'm just working on details. I'm working on getting this fade where I want it to be, and every hair laying how I want it to lay. So every hair has a place. Man, you can see that fade that's starting to pull together and starting to come together, and it's not even lined up yet. And we're back with the 2 guard, and then we're gonna put the 1.5 guard on. We're gonna work, just like I said, we're gonna work that section. Just like I've been doing the whole fade. It's just now we're up into the bigger guards. Now I'm gonna work this section I worked from the front to the middle of the ear, from the middle of the ear to the back of the head. Now I'm putting my 1 back on. Like I said, it's just detail work. Just finding the dark spot and just blending in with that 1.5 cut. And then just like I've been doing the whole cut, I do one side, I go to the back, I go to the other side, and then I meet it in the back. And I just do the same process the whole cut. And that's why it comes up so consistently. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. You might be thinking like, why am I going over the back so much? It's because the back of people's head is a lot of the times it's more dense than the rest. So it's a lot more dark. There's a lot more hair right there. So sometimes you have to even cut that part shorter than the rest around it to make it blend. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Don't go just taking what I just said and having a one open all the way else around the head and then closing it when you get to the back. Don't do that. Just finesse it. Just finesse it and match it. Make it match. So when I do the lineup, I do the vertical bar first, and then I use the corner of my blade to start my C cup, and then I work my way from the bottom of the C cup to the top. And make sure you use the corner of your blade. Using the corner of your blade doing C cups is very important. And notice how I got my clipper stable and I'm holding his head. I have my clipper stable and I'm holding his head. I have full control over this clipper and whatever this clipper does. And you don't have to dig in. You don't have to push nobody's line in back. You don't have to do none of that to get a crispy line. Stay out in front of it and just go with people's natural line. So now I'm using my water bottle. I'm brushing his hair in the way that we're about to cut it, and I'm going to cut it in the way that he wants it to lay. So really, I've never even explained like how I cut the top of hair, but basically what I do is, you see it, I brush it straight and I pull to where it's coming straight off the head. This is going to give you the guideline to when you go over a little farther. See how I started the edge of the head, now I'm working up into the top. And whatever you cut off of that first guideline, that's gonna be your guideline to what you take off the rest of the head. Then you're gonna brush to both sides. Even if he combs his hair to this side, you still brush to the other side, and you don't take quite as much off because he's gonna have to brush it this way, but you still have to brush to that side and take it a little bit off, or else one side of the head is gonna line up perfect. But say if he brushes his hair straight, one side is gonna be super long, the other side is just gonna be, the other side's gonna be good, one side's gonna be super long and just look goofy. And this is part of symmetry is the top too. The top's just as important as the fade. And once a client sees like how serious that you take the top and that you can do the top forward how he wants it to, you're gonna just be worth that much more. So what I do here is I grab some thinning shears and I thin this out just so it blends in a little more easy and it's not as thick right there. Then I'm gonna come back in with my actual shears and just take off a little bit. Just take off a little bit of that bulk and just to blend it in completely. And notice how I brush the bangs over. You don't want to get a hold of the bangs and make them short and dig into them, because that's not a good look. So here I'm just, like I said at the beginning of the video, we line this side up and we put a hard part in. You see where his hair naturally parts. That's without a hard. He hasn't even got a cut for like probably a month and a half before this video. So that's just where his hair naturally parts at. Alright, so the key of getting a hard part real crispy and clean looking is you don't have to make it super wide. You don't got to do all that. That's doing too much. Nobody wants to have an inch hard part. All you have to do is, see how I just did it. I cut it with the blade on both sides. So if you don't understand, I'm going to flip the blade again. So right now I'm hitting it with this side, with the blade facing towards me. Then I'm going to flip it around again after I hit it this side, like that, and I'm going to hit it on that side. So you're cutting the hair on each side of the hair. This is the only part of razor work that I got. I didn't think about it. The camera accidentally caught that. And now I'm coming in with my Babyliss Shavers, and I'm just getting this cut as smooth as you can get it and taking it as low as you can go. So this is the finished cut. It's an all natural cut. My client don't like too much enhancements. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you take your career to your next level, you advance, and you just strive to get better at what you do each and every day, and you perfect your craft. Thank you for watching, and God bless.